Hello, welcome to another Looney Tunes review video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe to follow my journey to review all 1000 classic Looney Tunes shorts and give this video a like as well. So this is a review for Ghost Wanted, released in 1940. It's the 296th in the series and it's directed by Chuck Jones. You can find this beautiful new restoration on the Looney Tunes Collector's Choice Volume 2 Blu-ray set, and I have a link below to that set. This short is under copyright. You'll not find it on YouTube unless Warner Brothers themselves choose to upload it. They might. It's a bit of a tame short. I don't know if they will, but they can, and they're the copyright holders and they're the only ones that can do so. But in case you haven't seen this one, it kind of looks like a Casper short, doesn't it? And I'm going to go through that in just a moment, but you have a little ghost that's reading a book about haunting and how to haunt houses and that sort of thing. He comes across a job ad that says you can haunt a house without any experience. So he goes to the house, gets interviewed by this bigger ghost, and the bigger ghost just decides to mess with him for the rest of the short. So nothing really too deep here. As far as trivia goes, there's two big ones. The first one is that there's only one voice in here, and it's the one and only Tex Avery. Yes, Tex Avery does the voice of the big ghost here.
The customer.
But Tex Avery's no stranger to voice acting, although it's very rare he would do voice acting in a short not directed by him. Usually he will do that insane laugh that he would normally do, but here he actually voices a full-fledged character. I mean, the short itself is okay, but at least it is definitely a standout, and it's always great to hear Tex Avery. Now, the other big trivia here is, what has this short got to do with Casper? It kind of does and kind of doesn't. It's a bit complicated. I don't think there's a definitive answer, so I looked into it further, so here goes. So on the surface, if you put this next to a Casper short, you'd think it's a kind of a Casper thing. Although in those shorts that you would see from famous studios, it would typically involve Casper being contrary to what a ghost actually is. He would try and make friends, whereas here, this ghost wants to learn how to haunt houses and tries to get a job doing so. So it's a little different in that regard. And I think the similarities are more to do with the design of the character and the mannerisms. So the first Casper short was released in 1945, just called The Friendly Ghost, and that ended up being popular enough to lead to a whole bunch of shorts, which Leonard Maltin famously called them incredibly dull because they just repeated the same idea over and over with very little difference between them. And I can't say he's wrong, it's similar to the Mighty Mouse stuff. But it also led to TV shows, comics, and of course, a major movie in the 90s, which I'm old enough to have seen in the cinema. Yeah, that's how old I am. But yeah, I definitely saw it. And they made more movies after that. I think they were more direct-to-video and that sort of thing. So before this short was released, so roughly 1939, 1940, you had two creators. You had Seymour Wright and artist Joe Oriolo. They were developing the idea for a book, but the book didn't get published. Later on during World War II, Oriolo sold the idea to Famous Studio and he got a one-off payment, and Famous then created their first short, The Friendly Ghost. So it's a sad situation because had he requested royalties, he would have become a very rich man, I would think, regardless of what your thoughts are on the Casper shorts and TV shows and character in general. But that's how it was like for a lot of the creators. I mean, look at the creators of Superman around this time. Now, it's possible that this short might have provided some further inspiration to when the Famous Studios were developing the idea. It's a possibility. I mean, ideas are shared between studios a lot of the time. I mean, just look at the whole idea of a character playing a piano and being annoyed by a mouse. That was done pretty much in the same year. Honestly, I would wager that it's just a coincidence. So you had Oriolo developing one version of a boy ghost. You had Bob Givens, who was the character designer in this short, developing his idea, and they just happened to look very similar mannerisms, all coincidence. That's what I think. So yeah, thought I'd put all that into perspective. And sad to say, the trivia for this short is probably more interesting than the short itself, but in seeing this new restoration though, I can gain a little bit more of appreciation for it, although I don't think this is going to be in my top tier Looney Tunes list anytime soon. So what we're going to do is go through the short from start to finish, go through any observations about it, and anything else I can dig up. So let's get to it. And when we see those beautiful opening titles, again, this restoration pops whether you like this short or not. You can't deny that. And looking at it, I just love that eerie music that you hear in the beginning. And it's my understanding there's only one musical reference, and I'll have to pop up on the screen at some point. It's a Chopin piece. So Starling, I like his musical puns that he does, but I also like when he does a more original score, such as what you hear in this one. So looking at it, the title itself, I just like how it's got that spooky effect on it. And this studio would have had a lower budget than Disney, and yet somehow Chuck Jones was able to make his short look as close as to what Disney were doing around this time, which is incredible. And speaking of original cues, there's that cue again. Which my good friend Manny Cruz, the Toonie Tenor, calls that Starling cue in G, although I'm not sure if it's in G in this case, but hey, it's pretty much the same tune, right? If you've seen A Wild Hare, you'll know this theme.
What's up, Doc? Shh, there's a wabbit down there, and I'm trying to catch him.
And if you watch that review, Manny goes into it into more depth. And just so funny, because I finished editing that review, which is a long review. I'm editing him talking about it. I open up this short after not seeing it for ages, and what do I hear? That Starling cue, because of course I do. But we entered into this haunted house, and again, looks absolutely beautiful. Yes, you're going to hear me say that a lot. I'm going to apologize in advance, but it really does look stunning. So we see our ghost character, and this is a sort of character in the vein of what Chuck Jones was doing around this time. So if you've seen the Sniffle short, and then you'll see Inky and the Two Curious Puppies, so a lot of it's to do with pantomime, and you'll notice as well that a lot of the beginning of this short is incredibly slow, and that's what Chuck unfortunately was doing at the time. It was going nice and slow. He was emulating Disney. It is what it is, right? But this continues in the tradition of him doing the pantomime characters before he was told to basically hurry up and make funnier characters. And this was done in one, so this character never appeared anywhere else, so I don't know if it was just not well received or not. Though to be fair, this did come out roughly around the time A Wild Hare did, so I wonder if that was part of it, that this short got overshadowed by Wild Hare. I don't know, but when watching this short, just be mindful of the fact that, yes, this was during Chuck Jones's Disney slow period, but there's still a lot to like about it. So this ghost character, who doesn't really have a name, is looking into this book on how to learn how to be a ghost, how to haunt people, I suppose. And you got these ghosts looking kind of creepy, and pretty much the one on the right is my face when my friend Manny Cruz sends me his recordings and they end up being like 40 minutes long or something, and I have to deal with that. But anyway, I kid, Manny, I kid, okay? But this next bit continues that whole tradition of pantomime where you've got this ghost who looks incredibly cute, but trying to be scary. It's got its charm, you know? But what impressed me the most, and this restoration shows it off even further, is that, again, the budgets were lower than what was at Disney. And yet somehow we were able to have this translucent paint effect, and that wouldn't have been cheap, I would imagine. If anyone with more technical knowledge on how this would have been achieved, definitely let me know in the comments below, because I definitely would like to know. But as I understand it, they have a special translucent paint, which, when shot on film, you can sort of see through it like this. But yeah, I'd be curious to see how they would have achieved this on the cheaper side versus what Disney did. So after being satisfied with his posing, he looks at the paper, which is the Saturday Evening Ghost. Of course, a parody of the Saturday Evening Post. And looking at that date, we get a rough idea of where this short would have been in production or shot or whatever. This might have been one of the last bits that was actually shot before it was all put together. But it gives you an idea of how long it actually takes to make even these shorts. And that looks like a caricature of Friz Freleng or something. It's kind of a weird looking thing, but it definitely reminds me of Friz Freleng. It might not be, but yeah. Friz Freleng would be parodied in similar ways, especially as like in one of the gremlins from the Kremlin, among other things. And if you look on the right, there goes ghastly noises have been reported coming up from the abandoned house on Upper Post Road. So it's good to see that you didn't really need to add that in there, but it just adds to this paper. But the ghost reads on and sees an ad which perfectly suits him. Ghost wanted to haunt house. Pretty obvious, but anyway. Experience unnecessary, earn while you learn. Perfect. 1313 Dracula Drive. We got to use number 13, of course. Why not? Office hours, midnight to 4 a.m. Because when else are ghosts going to haunt houses? You know, pretty standard. And there's nothing around here that looks kind of weird. I think they just added stuff to fill in the paper. No puns or anything, but that's okay. So the ghost breaks the fourth wall. He's happy. He's found an ad that could suit him well. So, in a weird gag, and this is the sort of thing that Chuck Jones would eventually stop doing, but the ghost would go through the door, but then he would come back and then go through the door normally. So, I guess he's trying to act more professional. It's not a particularly good gag, but that's okay. Can't be perfect. But an interesting scene, though. This ghost wants to dress to impress, so he gets out of his white clothes and into the blue one, and it's all translucent. But look very closely at that animation. This would have definitely been challenging to do. You have essentially an invisible character going inside these onesies, these pajamas, right? Because that's what they, of course, look like. And the blue is still translucent as well. So just take a close look at it. Again, even if you're not keen on this short, and I totally get it, watching scenes like this, you can definitely show the masters at work. I wonder who would have animated that. I know Rickimson was credited, but yeah, I'm not sure if it was him or not, but either way, it's great work. And in another bizarre gag, again calling back to that weird gag involving the door, you've got this ghost leaving for his job interview, going through the door, but then realizing, no, I want to actually do it properly. Yeah, the gag didn't work for me. I guess some might find it funny, but I don't. He actually locks the door and puts the key underneath the door anyway, so he has to go through the door later on to get the key in order to let himself in. I don't know, guys. Moving on. And now we get this rather foreboding looking house, which is all the way at the top of the mountain, because of course we got to get it looking as scary as possible. And again, I know I mentioned this before, restoration absolutely pops here, especially for this sea, even though it's on the darker side, and that's what it should be. I guess the postman, or postie as we say in Australia, would be pretty happy because the actual post box is right at the bottom. So there is that, I guess. But this is the sort of thing that Chuck would improve on later years. He would definitely speed things up because this scene takes an awfully long time. I know he's just building up the tension here that this is a scary looking place and this ghost is looking unsure of himself somewhat, but that's okay. We now get to see our ghost, which once again, voiced by Tex Avery. And this is when things do pick up a little bit because you'll notice we're 3 minutes in and nothing really haha funny has happened. It's all just cutesy stuff, just pantomime and setting things up. So at least things do pick up here. And keeping up with the number 13 theme, of course, he's a union member. He's part of the local number 13 of the National Spooks Association. I like it says ass there. I mean, we know it says association. But given how finicky the censors were back at the time, I'm surprised that no one kicked up a stink about it. But anyway.
The customer.
This ghost, I gotta say, is such a charming looking ghost. It's such a great design here. And I don't know about you, but the drawings in this one, especially of this big ghost, just comes across more playful than some of the shorts that Chuck Jones did recently. I don't know. It seems like he's now starting to come into his own as he eventually drifts away from the so-called Disney style. But you know what this short actually reminds me of? It's the Disney short Lonesome Ghosts, featuring Donald, Mickey, and Goofy. They're ghost hunters, they get called to a house, and there's a whole bunch of ghosts messing with them, right? The biggest irony is that Jones is aping Disney here, and the short isn't exactly funny. There are a few gags here and there that are okay, I guess. And yet, that Disney short is incredibly funny. So, go figure, right? But we get a great contrast here. We see that the boy ghost is rather slowly paced in terms of animation, and yet this, we'll call him the Tex Avery ghost. Yeah, it doesn't have a name. So the Tex Avery ghost, look at the speed that Jones uses here. He's becoming more and more confident in using it, and it works perfectly here. It's actually a nice little contrast, given how excited he is to hearing that, hey, he's got a customer. Things then slow down a little bit as the ghost disappears, saying, come in, and the ghost, again, I don't know why the boy ghost opens the door when he can just go right through, but he's looking around, it's all eerily empty, or so it seems at first, and then the Tex Avery ghost says, come in once again. Now, in a scene that I believe would have been cut from TV, the Tex Avery ghost offers a cigarette, and well, that's a big no-no, offering cigarettes to kids, and any kids watching this, yeah, don't smoke, right? But Old Ghoul cigarettes, that's a parody of Old Gold cigarettes. That was a brand at the time. I don't know if they're still around. I don't smoke. If they are, definitely let me know in the comments if you know of it. But that's what it's parodying in any case. But then we've got some wonderful effects animation, and I like the fact that the ghost is still invisible, but you've got the wonderful animation of the hat and the cigarette itself being lit up, but also the effects animation. Look at the actual flame, look at the smoke that's going around. Again, you know, smoking may be bad, but It certainly looks good here. You can tell you that. It's done it very, very effectively, even if it's very slow paced. And the smoke ends up forming the word boo. And so the big ghost asks the little one, hey, have you had any experience? The boy nods yes. Not sure why. He could have just said no if he has no experience. And the ghost challenges him, okay, scare me. And the ghost just laughs at all of that. And who can blame him? I mean, this boy ghost looks incredibly cute and looks like he couldn't hurt a fly, or scare a fly in his case.
Okay, bub. Scare me. Let's see you scare me.
So the boy ghost attempts to do what he learned in the book to try and scare this other ghost. And because he's invisible, he ends up going behind the boy ghost. And you got some wonderful animation acting here. So you've got, of course, the boy ghost doing the moves, but then you've got the Tex Avery ghost just looking around, sneaking up, saying boo. Would this have been tightened and done better later on by Jones? Of course it would, but this is incredible animation acting right here. And it gets its point across, so I guess that's the main thing. But now we're going to see the short actually pick up a little bit more in speed, which is always a good thing. And so the Tex Avery ghost chases the little boy all over the house, and he constantly stops and says boo and starts laughing. And yeah, this is why Tex Avery would have been chosen. I mean, that laugh is so infectious. Can't be helped. Although the scene does go a little bit too long, where he keeps on saying boo, starts laughing, boo, starts laughing. He's like, okay, we get the point, let's move along. So the Tex Avery ghost disappears again, sneaks behind a door at some point, and we see a letter going underneath saying the ghostal telegraph. So, of course, haha. Coastal telegraph, ghostal telegraph, yeah, okay, whatever. Looks like somebody copied what an actual telegraph would have actually been and just changed the name on it, because it looks like a pretty standard telegraph letter that you would have received at the time. But anyway, and as you'd expect, what does the telegram say? Boo, because of course it does. But I think what was missing there is the boy ghost getting scared from what he's reading. I think they could have added that in, but in any case, we're in the next scene now, where you've got the Tex Avery ghost running around what seems to be a laboratory. I wonder if a mad scientist lives here. I mean, given the address, it wouldn't surprise me. And we see all sorts of scare devices, chains, fireworks, sirens, horns. All the while, we can read all of that in that beautiful, again, translucent paint that's used for this Tex Avery ghost. And that's another interesting thing about this restoration. We all know, had you not seen the short before, they just apply the fireworks draw because it doesn't quite match what's on the background for chains, sirens, and so on. That's not a knock against it, but it's always interesting to see those little details once we see something fully restored like this one. So the boy standing there, absolutely petrified, while the Tex Avery ghost is a bit of a bully, isn't he? But he decides to light up these firecrackers, and we all know it's going to build up to something big, right? And an interesting bit of timing where once the boy ghost smells something, looks over, and when he realizes what it is, he speeds off. It's weird because the beginning part of it takes too long, and yet this actual brush off the scene is just about right. So again, Chuck is learning here. But the Tex Avery ghost, he's laughing his head off. Of course, he just finds all of this absolutely hysterical, but he still has all those fireworks in his pocket, and somehow one of them gets lit up. And we get to the fastest part of this short. And we get some wonderful special effects animation here where the Tex Avery ghost is being blasted all over the house in the fit of all these different firework effects. So you've got all those circles, stars, all different colors. That would have taken ages to animate, but the effect is done really well here. And if you look at one subtle little detail, which I never noticed before, just before the boy ghost runs off when he realizes that this fast thing is coming at him, look at the use of light. You can see the yellow outline on the side. It's subtle, but it's definitely effective. So in a stark contrast to the earlier on in the short, look how fast it gets now. They're just going all over the house, and you can barely even see the animation. It's just all effects animation showing off the speed here. So the little boy ghost is effectively chased out, probably unintentionally given the fireworks here, and they go all the way down that path, which again would be probably tightened up later on if Chuck Jones did it later, but they end up going past a well where the Tex Avery ghost basically puts himself out. And again, kudos to the effects animators for how they did all that smoke when he's put himself out. And there's no real lesson learned here. He's still going to be a prick and probably still get people to come over for job interviews to haunt houses and do the same thing. Whatever. We see that the boy ghost goes back home, and in a rather ho-hum type of ending, the boy ghost goes in, does exactly what I said was going to happen, where he had to go in, get the key, come out, unlock the door, go in. He even moves the welcome mat, and he also inputs the out to lunch thing on the outside, and, well, we end right there. There's no real punchline, which is a big disappointment. You know, I can't really find myself hating this short at all. I know some people really don't like it, and I can understand why. This is this interesting period of time where Jones is slowly but surely moving away from pure Disney and coming into his own. So you've got the beginning part that's very slow and measured. Then you got the end part where things will pick up for him. So there's that. It's charming. Tex Avery, easily the best thing here. Love his laugh. I mean, it's so infectious, of course. But you got some great animation, especially special effects animators who I think were underrated for this point in time, because these days you can use a lot of computer effects, whereas back then, all done by hand, and makes it even more impressive. This one, look, 6.5 out of 10. It's fine for what it is. If you watch it with that in mind, you know, you can perhaps appreciate some of the elements here, but it's also a forgettable one. But hey, I'm glad it's restored, and it's on that Looney Tunes Collector's Choice set, which you can buy if you click my link below. But that'll do it for this one. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and until next time, take care.